Hey guys, wanted to take a break from Isaiah real quick and kind of go over a psalm. I try and read a psalm and then a chapter every day, and then I refocus on that in the evening. But as I've been going through Isaiah, a lot of the stuff that's been talked about is really talking about prophecy. Not that I have anything against that, but it's just not really been kind of calling out to me. So I'm kind of going through, and there's not really been a lot to share there. But I'm on chapter 13 right now, and if you guys want to kind of go through there and catch up on that, feel free to do so. A lot of stuff in there talking about the prophecy of the birth of Christ and Christ coming and setting up his kingdom. A lot of prophecy about end times and prophecy that is still yet future tense, talking about the stars not giving their light and the sun not shining and the moon and all these things still again not yet having happened. The book of Joel, the book of Acts, and the book of Revelation all kind of talk about some of these things which are still yet future tense. But as we get into Psalm 42 is where I'm at today, and one of the things that David is saying here is that, as a deer pants for flowing streams, so pants my soul for you, O God. And he's just really kind of going into the fact that he really desires a relationship with God that is that much deeper than that which he has. He goes on and he says, my soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When shall I come and appear before God? And he's just really, again, kind of reiterating that, talking about how his innermost desire is to have that deep, close, personal relationship with God, which this is something that that we see. I want to say it was in the book of Joshua, but you guys can comment and correct me if I'm wrong. But one of the things that it talks about is that that there is none that seek after God. It may have been actually one of the Proverbs, but there is none that actually seek after God. In our basic, most basic desire, none of us are really longing for God. The idea that we created religion to satisfy ourselves is actually counterintuitive. Were it not for an actual experience with God, I would have no desire to have a relationship with God. But now that I have a relationship with God, there's nothing that I want more. And that's kind of what David is talking about here is, of all the things that I could have, I want that more. And it doesn't matter how much I get, I still want yet more. I want more of it. And he goes on in verse 3 and he says, my tears have been my food day and night, while they say to me all the day long, where is your God? And this is something that is kind of interesting because this is, the psalmist here talking about how he longs for this relationship with God. He's obviously had an experience with God before, but now he's talking about, he's got these doubts. He's, where is my God? I haven't had a maybe an experience in a while. I haven't had him really touch my life as profoundly as he has in the past, and now I'm beginning to kind of doubt and question, where is my God? And he goes on in verse 4 and he says, these things I remember as I pour out my soul, how I would go down with the throng and lead them in procession to the house of God, with glad shouts and songs of praise, a multitude keeping festival. And I want you to see here kind of what he's doing. He's now starting to remind himself about these past experiences that he's had with God. He's starting to essentially preach to himself about how God has been faithful in the past, how God has come through for him. And then he asks this question of himself in verse 5. He says, why are you cast down, O my soul, and why are you in turmoil within me? Hope in God, for I shall again praise him, my salvation. And the thing that I really kind of wanted to see here is that he's following a pattern in verses 1 through 5 that he kind of repeats in verses 6 through 11. There's only 11 verses in this chapter. But one of the things that he talks about is how much he longs for God. Then he goes through periods of doubt and desperation. Then he begins to preach to himself about how God has been faithful to him in the past and how much joy he has experienced through God. And then he begins to question why he's questioning himself, saying, Why are you cast down, O my soul? And why are you in turmoil within me? And he begins to encourage himself and basically preach to himself that he needs to hope in God, for he will once again have that relationship, have that closeness with him. For I shall again praise him, my salvation. And I wanted you guys to kind of see that pattern, because it's something that we can all apply in our lives, is not just to focus on these periods of desperation, these periods of doubt, these growing pains that we're going through, but to constantly preach to ourselves these periods that God has come through for us, these things that he has done in our life, and to find encouragement, to find strength, to find support in that. And in doing so, we continue pressing on, and we continue to fight that doubt, and to continue to just be faithful to God, because he has always been faithful to us. So I wanted to share that with you guys, and hopefully encourage you guys with that. It was something that kind of spoke to me today as I was reading this morning. So anyway, God bless.